I, 29 male, met my wife, 30 female, when we were both working as summer interns during college at an ad agency. We hit it off and we started dating. It was a little difficult because we both lived in the same city, but we went to school in different states. When the semesters kicked back up, we decided that we wanted to try long distance. It worked out fine for both of us, and after we graduated, we both moved to the same city, and we decided to live together. We got married a year after moving together. Everyone we knew was trying to tell us that it was too soon to get married, and that we were being naive by thinking that a year living together was enough time to truly know if we were meant to be. But we ignore all of them. For the first 6 years of our marriage, we didn't have any issues. We were both working hard to make it at our jobs. We started a family, and we bought a house. It was exactly what we both wanted. After several years of being disrespected by her employers and treated like she was dirt, my wife decided that she was going to be leaving her job and pursuing employment elsewhere. In the end, it turned out to be one of the best decisions of her life because she ended up working with some people that respected her and there was actually room for growth. When she started this new job, a lot of her coworkers were super friendly and invited her to go out with them. They just wanted to get to know her because it was apparently a very close-knit company. She was excited to get to know people that she might consider friends. I didn't think anything of it. In fact, I was very supportive of her going and making friends. It can be very difficult to make new friends as an adult, so it was great that she was. She continued going to these outings once every couple of weeks. They usually did it around payday, and every time they went, somebody else would foot the bill. It was a nice little ritual that my wife was happy to be involved in. About 5 months into her employment, she went out with her friends and didn't come home until the morning. I was worried sick. I didn't know what happened. Normally, if she was going to be out later than 11 p.m., she would text me and tell me. I tried calling her and reaching out to her, but I didn't get any response. Honestly, I was close to calling the police and filing a missing person report. She came home around 5 a.m. and I was still awake because I was too anxious to sleep. She was disheveled and groggy, very clearly hungover. Right away, I confronted her and asked her where she was, telling her that not only did she worry me, but she worried our son too. She apologized and told me that she couldn't argue about it. Apparently, they were celebrating one of her co-workers' birthday, and she had drunk way too much. She ended up crashing at one of her co-workers' houses because they were within walking distance. I could see that she was in a lot of pain, so I didn't push her any further. She apologized and went to lay down. I was extremely annoyed, and for the rest of the day, I was avoiding her because of my frustration. We talked about it a couple of days later because I was still annoyed, and she told me that she wouldn't let it get out of hand like that again. She actually ended up not going to the outing for a few weeks. She ended up calling me one Friday after work and telling me that some of her coworkers had practically begged her to go, so she asked me if it was all right. I was fine with it as long as she wasn't getting trashed again. Once again, she ended up coming back later than usual. This time she didn't spend the night somewhere else, but she came back around 2 a.m. She was completely drunk when she came in, but I did my duty as a husband and I made sure she was okay. I got her some water, I gave her some Advil, and I tucked her into bed. As I was helping her change out of her work clothes, I couldn't help but notice that her shirt was on inside out. On top of that, there was a strong musky cologne scent coming from it. Right away, I was suspicious that something had happened that night. She wasn't in any condition to talk about it, so I asked her about it the following morning. She told me I was crazy and that she would never do anything to risk hurting me or our son, but I couldn't help but wonder why her shirt was inside out. She went out the following week and once again didn't come home until the middle of the night. She was drunk and apologizing to me, which I assumed at the time was because of how drunk she was. Once again, I smelled the same cologne I did last time. That was enough for me. When she passed out, I grabbed her phone and looked through it. I found her work group chat and looked through all of the people, then searched her private chats with them all. I found one for a coworker, let's call him Jim, and she and Jim had apparently kissed. My wife had messaged him and told him that it was just a drunken mistake and it wouldn't happen again. She told him that there was nothing that they needed to worry about as long as it didn't happen anymore. But Jim wanted to go even further. He told her that they had been flirting, and he's been thinking about it for a long time. It was surprisingly easy for my wife to confess that she was also thinking about him. The night before, Jim texted her and asked her if she would go out for drinks. She was hesitant to do so because she worried that they would take a step further in their relationship. Jim said that he wasn't going to pressure her to do anything that she didn't want to, but he just wanted to be around her. She agreed to go, and what happened after that, I could only assume, was them pushing their relationship to the next level. However, I didn't have any proof that they had sex. I didn't say anything about it right away, because I wanted that proof before I confronted her and she tried to deny it again. She told me the following Wednesday that she was going to go out on Friday night again. I told her it was fine. That gave me just enough time to hire a babysitter and follow her as she did. She went out to the bar with her colleagues. I could see them through one of the windows while I sat in my car outside. One by one, all of her colleagues were leaving the bar and going home. My wife stayed until she was left with Jim all alone. As the last colleague left, Jim reached over, grabbed her, and kissed her. My wife tossed her arms around his shoulders and really soaked in the embrace. I snapped a couple of pictures of that, but I needed more proof than a kiss. They paid the bill and shortly after hopped into Jim's car. I followed them to a parking lot where they went off in the distance, far away from everyone else. It was clear that they were having sex in the car. I got the evidence that I needed, but then I was curious about why they didn't just go to Jim's house. I looked him up online and found that he was married with 3 children and his wife was pregnant with their 4th. I felt sick to my stomach. I was disgusted by them both. There was no way that my wife didn't know about his family. It might have been extremely impulsive at the time, but I was furious with them. I called the cops and reported them for having sex in the car. It was dark out, but it was still clear what was going on in there. They were in public, in a parking lot where anybody could walk by. I stayed and watched while a cop car strolled up and pulled them both out of the vehicle to talk to them. They weren't arrested, but the cop did slap them with a fine or ticket for public indecency. I thought it was hilarious. My wife was going to have to explain that to me. I couldn't wait to see what she came up with before I showed her the evidence. I got back home and sent the babysitter away before my wife got there, curious to see what she would tell me about her night. I asked her how it was, and she huffed that she got fined for public indecency. I played dumb and asked about how she got it. She told me that she was walking, and the wind blew her skirt up near a cop, and they thought she flashed them. It didn't even make sense. She was too intoxicated to come up with a decent lie. I told her that it was funny, that's what she got charged for when she was having sex in public. Then I showed her the evidence I found her. She tried to play it off like I was the bad guy for calling the police on her. She told me this would be on her permit record and her life would be impacted. I told her that wasn't my problem and that I was going to be divorcing her. I grabbed my son and drove to my mother's house to stay for the weekend. From what I gathered about Jim, he got the public indecency charge, but since he was so clearly intoxicated, he was also given a DUI. His wife ended up leaving him. I felt really bad for what happened with them, so I reached out to talk to her. I told her that if she ever needed anything or any help with the kids, I would be happy to lend a hand where I could. I won the house in the divorce, and my wife was forced to quit her job and leave the city to go stay with her parents while she figured out what else to do. OP, I am so sorry that you had to go through all of that. It seems like your wife realized what she was doing was wrong, and she tried to put a stop to it before it began. It seems like a lot of the blame here should be on Jim, but because she knew what she was doing was wrong and continued to do it anyway, they're both to blame. It's very disheartening that somebody who had 3 children and a pregnant wife would so blatantly pursue another woman. It's good that he was faced with repercussions for what he did. I think that karma really got him in the end with the added DUI charge. If he ever has to look for another job, then that's going to reflect very poorly on him, and it's going to be very difficult. I think it's very admirable that you have offered to help his ex-wife. I hope that you guys can move on. Hopefully, she ends up with a fair deal in the divorce to help with the children. Thank you for sharing with us. Now let's get into our second story for today. I, 31 male, have been with my wife, 30 female, for 5 years, and recently I found out that she cheated on me with her ex, aka one of my best friends. We met in college, we went to a very small school, and we were a part of the same friend group. We were all very close and knew practically everything about each other. At some point, almost everybody in the group had dated each other. It felt natural, we were close and people developed feelings for each other. After graduation, I confessed my feelings to my wife, and she told me that she felt the same. We decided to give our relationship a shot, and things went really well for us. It felt like we were always supposed to be together, and everything else before that was just trial and error. Before she and I got together, she dated my best friend. I considered him to be one of the most important people in my life. When they were dating, everybody in the group would always joke about how they were couple goals. From the outside looking in, they seemed to be perfect for each other. However, being as close to my friend as I was, I knew that they had a lot of problems. That's why when I started dating my wife, I was never worried about them wanting to get back together. Their problems were too bad for them to want to even try. Years later, my best friend met a wonderful girl, and they decided they wanted to get married. She fit right into the friend group, and everything seemed like it was going to work out fine. I would be lying if I said I never thought about my wife with my friend. Just having seen them in a relationship together, I knew how exciting everything was for them. I felt like I saw a different version of my wife when she was with him than when she was with me. When he announced his marriage, I couldn't help but notice that my wife was acting a little bit off. She said she was happy for them and that she was supportive of their engagement, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was a lie. One night, I let my insecurities get the better of me while I had a couple of drinks, and I asked her about it. We ended up getting into a huge argument where she told me that I was wrong for even thinking she was interested in anyone else. At the end of the night, she told me to leave our apartment because she was so angry. I ended up going to my best friend's house, where I told him exactly what happened. He reassured me himself that when they had broken up, it was for a reason. I felt kind of silly after the fact. My best friend was about to get married, and he was happy, and my wife was happy with me. I apologized to both of them for creating drama out of nothing, and we moved on. My best friend's wedding was getting closer, and I was busy preparing for my best man's speech. He meant the absolute world to me, so I wanted to do something that would be heartfelt, but also funny. I thought that maybe playing a little joke on him at first would be fitting for our relationship. During the reception, there was going to be a large projector to show some highlights of the relationship between my best friend and his fiancée. I thought that it might be funny to add some embarrassing pictures of him. I had the idea to just tell a few short anecdotes about how much of a mess he was before he met his fiancée, then to show some of the nicer pictures of him after the fact. My wife was at work, and my computer had recently been on the fritz, so when I went to look at all the pictures I had on my hard drive, I had to use my wife's computer. I didn't go looking for anything on her computer. It popped up at the most unfortunate time. She had desktop notifications set up for her Facebook account. All of our group chats were through Facebook Messenger, so I saw a bunch of those notifications pop up while I was looking through pictures. In the middle of my search, I saw a notification come up from my best friend. It was a little bit alarming because I didn't think they really had private conversations with each other anymore. A lot of the insecurities that I had popped up again. I didn't want to snoop and look at it, so I tried to ignore it. However, shortly after I received one notification, there was another. More kept coming up, and I was only able to read snippets of them before they would disappear. I was getting the sense that they were having an active conversation. I saw one message that said, "Maybe we ended things too early." That was enough for me to need to know more about the conversation. I opened the chat and read over the conversation they were having. I looked back further and realized that for several days they had been chatting and talking about some of the things they used to do together. My friend said that he loved his fiancée, but he thought that she was boring. He was complaining to my wife about their sex life and saying that it was unsatisfying to him. He remembered some of the times he and my wife used to have and described them in explicit detail. My wife went along with it instead of shutting it down. They were both talking about some of the things they did while they were studying abroad for a while, when they went on trips together, and when they were sneaking around in public. At the end of the conversation, my friend said that he thought about her while he was with his fiancée. I felt like my heart was ripped in two when I saw my wife say that she thought about him while she was with me. While they were talking, I was watching the entire conversation happen live. They didn't want to risk throwing away the chemistry they had, so they set a date to be together. They were going to try to figure out if they were going to give it another try or not. I was supposed to be going on a work retreat for one night the following Friday, so that's when they decided to meet. I started screenshotting some of the messages where they talked about setting a date and recounting their memories, but as I was going, the messages were getting deleted. I decided to pretend like nothing was happening when my wife got home, but I was already thinking of ways that I could get back at them for what they were planning. The Friday that they planned to be together came, and I made sure I was able to get some evidence of their affair. I installed a remote viewing camera, and while they were in the bedroom, fully having sex with each other, I took a couple of pictures for my evidence. I got everything in order. I consulted with a divorce attorney, and I was ready to serve my wife the papers. The day of the wedding finally came, and I was unsure of how I was going to go about everything. I had a plan, but I was starting to doubt myself. I had a perfect plan to expose both my wife and friend for their time together, but I started to think that maybe it wasn't the right place. The more I saw my friend with his fiancée, the more it made me want to do it. They had both betrayed our trust, and I wanted to humiliate them. During the reception, it was time for the speeches. I started my speech as if I were giving a nice little talk about my friend. The projector came on, and instead of showing pictures of my friend and his fiancée, I showed pictures of my friend and my wife. I was able to find some pictures that corresponded with the stuff they were saying in their messages. I recited those messages as the pictures appeared on the screen. Toward the end, I added in a picture of them sleeping together with the date. It was only 2 weeks before the wedding. Chaos erupted around us, and I just stood there and watched it happen. My wife stormed up to me to ask what I was doing, and I just told her that it was over and we would be getting divorced. My friend was getting chewed out by his fiancée, and her father looked like he might actually kill him. It's safe to say I completely ruined the wedding. I ended up divorcing my wife, getting to keep the house, the car, everything. My friend and fiancé annulled their marriage. His fiancée's father forced him to pay back everything he spent on the wedding and threatened litigation. My ex-wife and ex-best friend decided they wanted to try and see if they could work things out. They dated for about a week, and the same issues they had when they were in college popped up, and they broke up. So it really was all for nothing. They just showed their true colors to everyone. OP, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Having your wife cheat on you is already bad enough. But when it's with somebody like a best friend, it's unimaginable. They were two people that you thought you could trust, and they proved to be selfish and untrustworthy. Your gut instinct told you that there was something wrong with their relationship, and you were right to question her about it. Maybe at the time there wasn't anything going on, but it seems like when they were faced with it, they caved in. I think it might have been better to do something before the wedding, however, since your ex-best friend had to pay for the wedding, it was justified. Hopefully, you and the fiancé of your ex-friend can move past what happened, and you won't let this hold you back from meeting other genuine good people. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.